Hello, people. Welcome back. Here we are for another setup. Hopefully, you had a good one so far with, I don't know, the 7 or 8 or 9 setups that are up already. And here we are in between race weekends. Singapore Grand Prix is coming up this weekend. And, well, I'm kind of excited as well to see the new layout. Anyway, we go to an equally high downforce track, which is Hungary, Hungaroring, one of the most notorious track for tire wear, tire degradation, and also tire temperatures in real life and as well in the game. So here we'll have a setup that kind of helps you to be quick in qualifying. At the same time, it's a good race setup that you can utilize. Start it off as a baseline, and I've tested it out in Grand Prix mode qualifying and just the starting stint, and it feels really nice to drive. So here we go. Let's go back into the pits and take a look at the setup that we have. First of all, aerodynamics as usual, it's going to be 50-46. All right, so it's one click higher rear wing for obvious reasons, because in the race you're going to need it. You don't notice that one click of rear wing loss in straight line speed around here. If anything, it's going to help you a lot more in the corners throughout the race than to lose you a bit of time on the straights. So again, it's a good compromise to go for. Unlike Monza, where you want to shed all the downforce, here you want to get as much downforce as possible, but you do not want to go too high on the wings, otherwise you're really a boat on the straights here. So go a bit lower, 46, 45 will be just nice. If you want to go for like a really lower downforce option, I'd say go 2 or 3 clicks down and nothing more than that. Otherwise you'll be really slow in the corners and people will be sticking on you in the corners, and out of the last corner you're probably going to be, although you're going to have a bit more straight line speed, you're not going to be having the braking power into turn 1. So that's the reality you got to face around Hungary here. Transmission, well, kind of almost the usual. Again, this is only for time trial where I'm using 50-50. For an actual qualifying condition, 55, 51 or 55-50 works just nicely. And then for the race, you want to use at least 51 off throttle. And then 55 on throttle works just nice throughout the race. And then when the tires start to wear out, you start to feel a bit more slidey. When you put down power, it starts to feel like it's not giving you enough grip. You're asking too much for the grip. Then you can just increase it to 60 from your MFD, and that should help you to not overwork your rear tires on acceleration when the tires are wearing out, of course. Otherwise, leave it at 55. You can even use 50 throughout the race, but be careful while accelerating on the curbs. It can generate a bit of wheel spin and lose you time, maybe spin you out even. All right, suspension geometry, the usual: right for the camber and left for the toe. There is a variation where I tried out a bit more rear toe in, similar to the world record setup. It kind of helps in some corners, but I've already increased the downforce on the rear, so that kind of counteracts the effect of the rear toe anyway. So I'd prefer to have more downforce anyway than to have more mechanical grip here. So it's either or, it's your choice. Suspension, almost similar again to what the world record setup is using. For once, I'm actually happy with the setup that I use in the world record, because it's pretty nice to drive. In qualifying, it's pretty good, and then you just need to add one click of rear wing, and it's actually a pretty good racing setup as well, just not to my liking, of course. So I've adjusted this from 30 front suspension. I've gone up to 31. Just one click, it actually made a bit of difference in the handling of the corners, but really we're talking about diminishing returns here. So the more you go, the lesser you get kind of returns in terms of making adjustments to your setup. So 30-31 just works nicely as well. Same goes for the rear suspension. It was at 11. I went up to 15 just so it feels less slippery when I'm in the corners. It doesn't move around that much. So stiffer suspension means your car is not moving, the car is not shaking as much. It's a lot more stable, and you don't want too much rear suspension either, because that will start to make the car a lot more slidey on the corner exit, especially the last corner where it is quite a long acceleration zone, and also turn 1. These two corners are going to feel awful if you have too much rear suspension. The rotation is going to be good though. Front anti-roll bar, again, this is, like I say, to control how the car feels throughout the corners. You don't really feel that much on corner entry, If anything, it's like the late entry to the mid corner phase where you feel the effect of front anti-roll bar, and on the mid corner to exit phase. So if you increase this, you're going to feel a little bit more understeer in the mid corner, in the late entry to mid corner phase, and also on the exit phase. It can be good if you want a bit of stability on exit, so that's why I've gone up 2 clicks just a little bit. And rear anti-roll bar, I left it at 1 to keep the rear as soft as possible. If you increase this, again, you're going to get more rotation, but it's not a track where you really want the rear to be sliding around so much, especially with tire temperatures and tire being so crucial around here. And the ride height, which started off at 33, 35, I found that going up 34, 36 actually made the car a lot more stable. Conversely, usually, you'd want to go lower to make it more stable, but because we have so much downforce on the car, there's a lot of load on the car, so you have to remember that the car is going to be pushed into the ground a lot more, so you'll need some ground clearance. So that's why you need to run a little bit higher front ride height and rear ride height as well. So you can run 36, 37 as well on the rear. Is just nice. 37 gives you a lot more rotation, maybe less traction. So if you want to go a little higher on the rear ride height, you can go low on the rear suspension. You'll kind of get the same effect in the car handling. So you can always try out those compromises. Brake pressure 100% as always, no changes to this. If you're running any lower than 100%, then you should uninstall the game, seriously. Now, brake bias, it's an interesting one. Again, in time trial, it's like I say, it's always a bit sketchy in terms of the grip, and it's a lot more understeery in time trial, let's put it that way. Partly because there's hot lap enabled all the time, and there's no tire temperature drop off, there's no grip drop off, so you feel a lot more understeery here. So that's why you can use 54 in time trial, even 53 in the middle sector corners. For heavier braking, you use 54. Now in an actual race condition or qualifying condition, I definitely recommend you going up to 55, but basically +1 from whatever you're using. And then in the race, say into turn 1, you're going to be braking quite heavily, you can also go up to 56 or 55 depending on which tire is wearing on. If you feel the fronts are wearing on a lot more, you can push the brake bias rearwards. If the rears are wearing on a lot more, then it's definitely beneficial to push the brake bias a little forward. And tire pressures, this one similar to the world record in a way, and it felt just nice in qualifying as well and in the race. Just remember though, if it's starting to overheat, you might as well just start on minimum tire pressures on the rear, and just 2 clicks on the front would be just nice either way. You can even run minimum tire pressures all the way, and then it's also good. Just make sure the tire temperatures are not overheating. And to find out if the tire temperatures are overheating, you want to find out how to customize setup even more, you can always join my Discord channel, and I have a setup board set up in the server where people can use, where anyone like you guys can use it to find out the setups. It will be updated from time to time for free, and also there are free tips how to adjust your setup depending on whatever issues you have: understeer, oversteer, no top speed, too much top speed, I don't know if that's a thing. And yeah, you can find out all about that if you join my Discord server. See you there. And if you have stuck around so far, I'd like to thank you as always for tuning in and giving the support. That's really important to keep me going and making all this setup as well, not just for the league races and commentary races that I do. It's also to help you out all the way. Now if you're done, you want to say goodbye, and I'll say goodbye to you as well. We'll proceed to the best lap that I've done, and we'll take a look at the track guide, how to tackle Hungary in F1 23. So let's go and see how do we tackle Hungary. So first things first, you want to set up your screen. Let's go forward, please. Now let's take a look at our fastest lap around here. Well, like you can see, of course it's being cut here, but you want to take a wider entry and then cut back into the corner, or you can even stay tight here and let the car run wide on the exit. This year it is possible to do that. You may only gain a few thousandths on your qualifying lap by going wider and cutting back in for the pit straight. Either way, let the car run wide, and then DRS is going to be activated quite early while you're still on the curbs. And if your car is unstable, make sure to not turn on overtake or battery or the DRS until you're stable. And as soon as you're straight here, you don't want to go too much more to the left. And with the ride height that you're running, this is just enough to run over the curves without bottoming out and slowing down the car. So this is, I'd say, the most you want to go. You can, of course, you can see there's a bit more gap, you can squeeze it out, but this is as good as it gets. Now DRS wide open here. In the race, you can actually just rev it out in 7th gear because you're not even reaching 12,000 or 12,200 RPM. After that, you really start to lose speed. You just want to rev out in 7th gear, down to turn 1. In qualifying, for sure, go up to 8th gear. You may gain a few thousands, but there may be some scenarios where you can actually just rev it out in 7th, use the engine braking into turn 1. Now, the braking point for here, there are 3 references. 2 solid ones, which is the black box on the left, the white line on the ground, and then I'll say semi-solid because boards tend to get smashed, the 100-meter board on the ground. So these are your 3 braking markers. You can brake at it or after it or before it, depending on your conditions. In qualifying, you can brake right after this white line before the curb in front of you starts. So brake heavy here, down to 3rd gear. Stay tight on the apex. You want to take the entry curve, but not more than that. You want to go over the curb, but not any further onto the white part. Otherwise, it bottoms out on the car and you will actually lose time on the apex. So you want to use the curb to rotate the car, get the car turned in, and then start applying throttle slowly here. On the exit, again, you don't want to take too much of the curb. You can just hug it like this, and then DRS is going to be activated here. So again, it's a tricky DRS to activate, but it's more beneficial to make sure you're full throttle before you turn on the DRS. Otherwise, you're going to spin out quite easily. Unless you have a different line that you're taking against someone to overtake, then you can probably activate it much sooner. Stay tight to the right. This gains you a few thousands and also opens up the next corner. And then right as we pass this curb here, the black and white, the red and white curb, not black and white curb. It is not Silverstone. So the red and white curb, as you pass the 100-meter board or you start at the curb, that's where you're going to be braking. And in the qualifying session, you can brake much later and take a bit of the curb on the entry to rotate the car like this. And right before the 50, that's where you want to be braking in. You can take multiple lines around here, but I recommend just using the normal line that you have in the race. If you are using racing line, use that line. If you're not using racing line, just stay tight like this because there will be marbles in qualifying. That's going to ruin your grip. You're going to understeer for no reason. So screw the marbles. Let's just take the normal AI racing line, right? For once. And then stay tight on the entry once again. 3rd gear. And then you want to start accelerating as soon as you are, turning into a corner and you feel like the car is going to turn more and more into the white curve over here. So start applying throttle and open up the steering. And then as you see, let the car run wide again. If you're tight on the entry, let the car run wide on the exit. If you're wide on the entry, then you can cut back and stay tight on the exit. So 2 ways to take the corner really. And let it run wide onto the curb. And because these cars have so much downforce, you can just flick it back to the right. Take a bit of the curb here. Again, with a bit higher ride height, you can definitely take this as it is. And make sure to not run too wide on the exit. And yeah, this is as much curb as you want to take, not going over it because it will start to scrape the floor of your car and slow it down. And then go back to the right into the next corner here. You want to be looking for the black box or the start of this black and white curb, which are the 2 solid references that you have for turning in. It's a blind apex up here, so you cannot see the apex coming until you are really at it. So you'll have to practice this, get a muscle memory of it. The best way is to brake, just dab the brakes and downshift while you're on the curb, not while on the curb, when you reach the curb, and then throw the car into the corner. You can take just a bit of this curb here. You don't want to take any more than that because, well, again, ride height, all the funny things, and you will bottom out. So not like last year where you can just literally just fly over the curb. Now you can't do that. So you want to take it conservatively, but still push the car on the exit. Again, take it half. Don't want to take it more than that because immediately you have to bring the car over to the left to open up the next complex of corners. So here we go. Bring it back to the left. There are a few markers here again. The end of the curb on the right hand side, or as the two boards at the exit lane starts to split, or the black box or the marshal post, whichever is preferable to you. Use that as your braking marker, to start braking. And then you just have to tap on the brake, just hold it about 30-40%, downshift twice to fourth gear, throw the car into the apex, but don't touch the wide curve here. And then again, accelerate and let the car run wide. I didn't do this perfectly, but either way, you want to make sure that you can take this line perfectly and don't mount the curb any more than this. Let it run wide, keep the steering straight so that you do not lose the car, and then bring it back over to the left and then open up the entry for the next chicane here. So probably the slowest part of the track here and the trickiest part. You want to brake as the curb starts here. You don't want to brake too late either. And brake down to third gear and trail brake into the corner until you are going to hit the apex, and this is almost as good as it is. Ideally you want to take a little bit more, like jump over the sausage curve, but not too much, like not go over it, just a little bit more to the right, like maybe 1 cm or 2 cm more. This is as good as it gets. Turn the car right and then flick it back to the left. Again, you don't want to be going over this exit sausage curve, which is going to compromise your car's stability and ruin your exit. You're going to lose time on the exit. And then fourth gear on the exit, and keep it straight. You have to play with the track limits here to make sure you get the maximum out of your lap, and bring back the car over to the painted curb here. Like you can see, you don't want to go over the grass, otherwise that's going to compromise your entry into the next left-hander. So brake markers for the next turning in here, you have the black box on the right, or depending on the condition, if it's qualifying, you can use the white pole, that electric fence on the top. As you pass that, that's where you want to turn in. Optionally, you can downshift to fourth if you need to. Don't take any more than this curb here, like this. You don't want to take the wide part because it's going to offset the car and push you wide on the exit here on the right hander here. And then keep the car somewhat to the middle of the track, and if you can bring it more to the left, it's okay. Either way, you want to keep it at least on the middle of the track, and then bring it back to the right, throw it back onto the right, and then start accelerating here. Let the car run wide on the exit again. This will gain you time, and trust the car. You have to be brave with the track limits again. This track is prone to track limit warnings, but you have to be brave with it if you want to find some time. And then let the car accelerate down into the next part of the corners here. Stay tight to the left hand side just to open up the next corner here. You don't want to go too wide, so stay as tight as you can to this curb here. And then as soon as this red and white curb on the left hand side starts, that's where you want to throw the car into the corner to turn in. Just a slight lift of throttle. You don't want to brake, you don't want to downshift, you just want to lift slightly. And then as soon as you're into the apex, or like you hit this part of the curb, you want to accelerate again and let the car run wide. While you're accelerating, remember to open up the steering as well and adjust your steering input so that you do not understeer, first of all, on exit by turning too much, and second of all, while you're accelerating on the exit, you want to just start turning it back a bit to the right so that you are just within track limits like this. So this is as close as it gets in all of my runs. I don't know how much better I can do. Now the next part is a 90-degree corner here. You want to brake at the 50-meter board, or you can brake at the start of this red and white curve again. So once again, these curves around here are a good reference. Brake down to third gear. You can downshift to third quite quickly, or you can wait till the last moment. Either way works out for you. And tuck the car into the apex here. I run a little bit on the higher part of the curve, which compromised my exit here. So you want to be a bit tighter, a bit wider, but cut back tighter on the exit here. And on the exit again, play with the track limits, flirt with it. This is, I don't know how many cm, how many nanometers from invalidating. And then accelerate, bring back the car over to the right, and you'll probably be in fourth gear. You can leave it in fourth gear as well. If you want to go up to fifth gear, it's also up to you. And then straighten the car a lot more than I did. And right as this red and white curve starts in the race, this is where you're going to be braking. In qualifying, you can brake a bit later as you pass the advertising board on the top or the black box on the right, whichever is easier for you. Do not use the shadow. It's a bit inconsistent because weather changes can hide the shadow, or it's not going to be there. So the black box or this advertising board is going to be your best way to refer for this braking zone. And then brake. Initially you want to brake a lot heavier, like 50-60%, even 100% maybe, depending on how you want to take the corner. And then throw the car into the corner. Again, make sure you're not turning in too much initially, otherwise the car is going to understeer while you have a lot of entry speed. Slowly trail brake into the corner, apply some brakes, get the car turned in, and as soon as you feel like the car has turned enough, like this, you can see the car is turning enough, and I feel from here I can start applying throttle about 40-50% and gradually go up the throttle pedal. And as soon as you are opening up the steering, this is where you're probably almost 100%. You have to be 100% throttle here while you're still turning a little bit so that you gain some time on the exit. Bring back the car over to the left, and as you pass this marshal post here, I think I went on the grass a little bit here, and that kind of hurt my exit, my entry into the next corner. Yeah, so you don't want to be doing that. So you want to be a little more to the right here so that you don't clip the grass. Now bring the car, as you can see here, over to the left, and then as you pass the marshal post or the white line that is coming up, whichever you want to use, you throw the car into the corner, brake just a little bit, downshift to fourth. You might be wide a little bit here because, again, skill issues. I have skill issues today, but you want to bring it tight on the exit, let the car run wide, and do not exceed the track limits once again. DRS open and run to the line. That's a lap of Hungaroring, and hopefully this helps you out as well. And I'll leave you with the fastest lap on a full replay so that you can pick up a pointer or two, and hopefully that'll help you out for today. So everyone, thanks again for tuning in. Take care, stay safe, and I'll leave you with the fastest lap and see you next time. Bye bye.